Okay, admitting all. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Batya Blumenthal, branch supervisor of the Putterham Library. Uh, Welcoming you today to another session of gentle yoga. Um, as always, we wanted to thank our friends of the Brookline Library for sponsoring programs like our gentle chair yoga and programs like it. We also wanted to thank Keith for joining us again and who will be leading us through our gentle yoga practice. And we also wanted to acknowledge our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, for streaming our program live to their Facebook feed, to YouTube, and it will also be live on local cable channels Comcast and RCN Channel 3. So, as always, before we begin, we do have a little bit of a disclaimer. Participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program. And with that, I give you Keith.
Hi, good morning. So welcome to our yoga class. So let's go ahead and set up our chair. Set up so you can see as easily without turning your head. It's nice to be able to have our head pointing straight ahead so that it's even on the spine. And if you want a little support for the back or a little padding, please go ahead and take that. You can also put something for the lumbar spine if you want. So your choice here, whether or not you're sitting all the way back in the chair like this, or you're forward like this. I like to start forward just because in the beginning I feel more energetic, and as the class goes on, I might get a little more tired and I might want some more support for the back. But either way, keep in mind the idea of sitting up tall with good posture. So we're going to start with that. So we call this seated mountain pose, mountain pose. So it's a real foundational pose, no pun intended, in yoga. I mean, think of yourself as a mountain. So a mountain has roots into the earth. So think of your bottom and your feet as being grounded into the earth, so that we can press on those areas, our feet and even our buttocks. Feel the buttocks supported and pressing into the earth to help lift the spine up. So we can help to feel this by lifting the ribs up and lifting the chest up. So thinking about lifting the front of the body up as I press my feet and feel the buttocks pressing as well. And I like to close my eyes when I do this. I like to close my eyes because it allows me to bring my senses inward so I can begin to feel the body more. I'm not distracted by what I see. And I'm going to start by noticing the breath. Noticing the breath. So thinking about lifting. And notice the sensation as we breathe that the breath brings to the belly, this sensation of expansion. And then as we exhale, a contraction or a releasing or letting go. So feel that sensation of the belly moving. And allow the shoulders to relax. So we have a few things going on. We have the belly moving with the breath. You can even, if you want, you could rest your hands on your belly like this, or you could even bring your hands near the belly and then sort of mimicking the belly as you inhale, let the hands float out slightly. And then exhale, they come back and almost touch. They don't quite touch the belly when they come back. So it's like our hands and our forearms are kind of mimicking this balloon of the belly. And all this time we're still sitting up tall. So my feet still feel like they're supported and grounded in the earth. My buttocks feel like they're grounded in the chair. And try to keep the face pointed straight ahead. So my chin isn't down and it's not up. It's nice and even with the floor. I'm going to rest my hands and I'm going to roll the shoulders a couple of times and then roll them back the other way. So let's warm up a little bit. Even though it's fairly warm, it's a pretty nice, it's not as warm as it was yesterday, but I think it's supposed to get warmer later. And we'll bring our hands together like this and we'll warm up. One of the ways that we can warm ourselves up, and you could do this, not so important in the summer, in the wintertime, when it's cold, especially in New England where we are, it can be challenging to keep ourselves warm. You know, especially if I've become thinner with age, so it can be challenging. So one of the ways that we can do it was with nice full breaths and getting a little bit of opening in the heart here. So we start to, it's like the lungs are pumping and that helps to pump the blood around the body. And this opening helps to pump the blood around the body. So it helps to bring our energy up, especially if we breathe a little faster. So think about breathing slightly faster. So it's important not to overdo the breath. And of course, this is your practice. So if you're already feeling energetic and you want to slow the breath down, you could do the opposite of that. Resting the hands and just coming back and feeling the belly moving and really concentrating on slowness of the belly. And ultimately in yoga, what this brings us to is an evenness, so that if I'm feeling sluggish and I want to raise my metabolism up and I do a little more deep breathing, a little faster breathing, then I'm coming back up to more of a normal. And if I'm the opposite, if I'm already highly energetic and I want to relax the body, I take slower breaths. And that brings us back to sort of that a neutral position. So we have to actually look carefully at ourselves and decide, well, do I need more energy or do I need less energy? So please decide that and then go ahead and stick with whichever one you want for just a few more breaths. Just a few more breaths. And remember, if you're doing the more energetic version to get yourself more energy, give yourself a little hug like this. And that's a nice way to kind of soften that energy a little bit. Kind of slow it down a little hug. And sighing is always good. And that's good whether or not you're relaxing your breath or bringing your breath up. And we'll go ahead now, bring the hand right to the center. We're going to start with 3 ohms. I'm going to ring our bowl. And so remember, the ohm sound is ah. So think about the shape of the mouth. Ah. Like you go to the doctor, they want to look in your throat, they say open wide, say ah. Please do that the next time they ask that. Give a little see what they say. And then the second part is the oh. So notice the shape of the mouth is more of a really is an O shape. And the final one, we close the mouth softly. So the lips come together. So we really feel the vibration going up into the nostrils and also into the sinuses from that last one. So it's try it. It's a little practice. Try it with me a couple of times. Remember, shape of the mouth. Let's go ahead. We'll do it 3 times. And when we do these, when we do the sound, think of a natural breath. Don't overstuff yourself, because that creates tension and that tends to be counterproductive, especially about if you want the throat to feel more open and vibrating when we make the om sound. Shoulders are relaxed, face is soft. And go ahead and sit up nice and tall in mountain pose, and keeping the spine long and the throat soft, right where the Adam's apple is. Think about the front of the throat soft. Release the chin down. Just letting the head bow forward with the weight of the head. So I'm not actually trying to force the head, just the weight. And I'm inhaling and lifting the chin up. And let's, so a little bit, another thing to kind of even us out, let's do what we call brummery. So it's the bumblebee breath. And it is the last part of the oming. We did the o, So brummery is the sound, like you ate something yummy. I always say chocolate because that's one of my favorite things to eat. And so we'll take a breath in, and if you like, remember, you can imagine there's a bee flying from one side of the room and exiting the other side, and when it's closer to you, it's louder. So so it starts off very, very soft as you can, loudest in the middle, and then it tapers off as it flies away. So please join me, and we'll just do we'll do these for about 30 seconds, 30 or 40 seconds, and remember to just breathe normally. Better to shorter and relaxed is better than longer and oomph. So we're trying to let go. We're trying to let the vocal cords do the work here, but without straining. So we want to also be relaxed. Remember that balance. In yoga, we talk about balance of ease and effort. So let's go ahead and we'll do that. We'll start together. We'll take a breath in, and then we'll go for about 30 or 40 seconds. We'll breathe in together. Allow yourself to relax. Shoulders are soft. And last one. Pause for a moment. Notice the silence around you. If you want, you can open your eyes. We're going to add some movement with the breath now. So it's definitely gotten to be summery. So a little water. I try not to drink too much water during yoga class. We don't want to cool the body too much unless you're really overheated. It's nice to, during a yoga class, we have a tendency in the beginning to get a little bit warmer. And then at the end, as we finish, we tend to cool down, which is why we sometimes need a blanket to cover ourselves up with at the end. Our temperature drops. So if we use too much water during the class, then you may start to extinguish some of that energy. So sipping is good. Sipping is good, unless you're really thirsty. And of course, if you know that you're dehydrated, and it's important this time of year, sometimes I'll forget to actually drink, and I'll notice after a couple hours that, I haven't really drank anything, and sometimes I get a little bit, I don't feel quite right. So having some water regularly can be helpful. So we'll go ahead and bring our hands together, and we're going to add some breath, inhaling. And as we inhale, we lift the arms up. So we're going to make some arm circles here. Inhaling up and exhaling down. And I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. Notice that as I lift up, my chest is coming forward. So there's a lifting here where the sternum is, right? Where the heart is. And the shoulder blades are coming together. With some ease, though, with some ease. So I'm not forcing anything to move here. And that might mean that your circles are smaller. The important thing is to be coming up and breathing in. And then we turn the palms down and come down. So find a circle that feels comfortable for you. So some people may be circling way up. You may be extending the arms way up and way out to the side. That's okay. And some people may be working with a smaller circle, and that's okay. It's really about bringing our attention to the circle, our attention to what we're doing, to the breath, the unity of the breath with the movement, or the rhythm of the breath with the rhythm of the movement. And we're going to change our direction. So we come together like this, and then we'll go back the other way. We'll drop the hands as we exhale, and then we turn the palms up, we inhale and come up. So think about feeling the hands dropping, almost like a little elevator. Feel like your hands are floating down. Sometimes when an elevator moves, you get like a little feeling of weightlessness. Let the hands float down like that. And remember, you can make big circles if that's okay for your shoulders and your neck and your arms. And a couple more. You can even add a sigh if you want. You can also allow the chin to go up and down. This is something that might be happening naturally, especially if you close the eyes. But try not to drop the head way back. May not be good for your neck. And then we'll come back like this. And now let's go back to that breath where we're going to cactus breath like this. Sweeping the arms out and back. So finding a spot that feels comfortable, whether or not the elbows are up at shoulder height or the elbows are down around the ribs, and even the hands down around the navel. So this is a nice, slightly different, almost like you're going to do a swan dive like this. So you have to, and you could try each position because they open the chest differently. This opens the chest differently than this because we're changing the position of the shoulder blades. And you might actually find that you like this one better today than this one. And then no matter which one you're doing, go ahead and wrap yourself up here, either with the elbow elbows or the shoulders. And a couple more. And we're going to start by, we're going to bend the spine in 6 ways. We've done this before, so this is a really good practice to do if you can do it every day for just a couple of minutes. Remember, always doing it without straining. So we're going to start in our seated mountain pose. This is a good one where if you like something between the thighs to activate the thighs and to help better activate the buttock muscles, you can put a block, hold a block, or remember a blanket or a towel, whatever you have that's useful. So this is just a plain blanket. You can hold it right here between the thighs, and that activates the adductor muscles. And so we're going to sit up nice and tall. We're going to inhale and exhale. I'm having my fingers over the knees so I can hold on a little bit. My arms are straight. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. My arms are straight and I'm lifting my heart, and my chin lifts up a little bit. And then I'm moving my heart back. So notice my shoulder blades round a little. And you'll feel your pelvis, the pelvis is rocking back and forth. So if you can't feel that, try bringing your hands right to the front hip bones right here. Find your front hip bones. So if you follow the thighs up where it meets the torso, you'll find a bony protuberance here, front hip bones. And these are rocking back and forth. And I'm only rocking so much. So if you rock back too far, you may start to get too much compression. The vertebrae open up in the back here and they compress in the front. And we want to try to avoid that. You're going to get to a point where you may get some discomfort. And so don't go there. So wherever you start to feel anything that doesn't feel right, then that's far enough. So we're rocking back and forth, thinking about moving the heart. Think about moving your heart. You could even, if you wanted, put your hand on your heart and see if you can feel the chest moving forward and back. And you might notice as the chest comes forward, the plane of it lifts up a little bit. So it's a little bit more vertical here, neutral position. But when it comes forward, it starts to lift up like this. So I feel my hand lift up a little. And when I go back, I feel it go down. And when I'm in the middle, it's nice and vertical. So that's flexion and extension of the spine, forward and back is what that is. So this is our extension when we lift up, and this is our flexion. So that's number 1 and number 2 of the 6. And then we're going to do a lateral extension. So we're going to bring our hands up to the shoulders like this. And then we'll lift the elbow up and then do the other side. So we're going to start like this. Make sure the feet are supporting you well. And that might mean, because we're leaning to the side, you might want to spread the feet a little further apart so that as you lean over, you have more support. It'll be harder if your feet are together. You'll start to want to fall out of the chair. So we want to avoid that. And if you were using something between the legs, you can continue to use that. You may need to adjust if you have the legs further apart, especially with a block. The nice thing about it is you can adjust the width with the width of the block. You can also extend the arms if you want. So if your shoulders allow this, feel free to go ahead and extend the arm as you lean over. It's almost like the arm is coming alongside the ear, like I'm reaching up to pick something. It's not really, I'm trying to think, it's not apple season yet or grapes or anything here. But we're going to go back and forth and feel the ribs on that long side. So as I lean over, my ribs are opening, my armpits opening, and see if you can keep the buttocks in the chair. It's going to want to lift up out of the chair. Think about pressing the buttock down into the chair. And also when you reach up, sometimes there's a tendency to turn forward like this. See if you can avoid that. You might even give a little turn so that as you lean to the side, that top elbow goes back slightly, just to keep from coming forward. And this is going to keep us more in a neutral position. And then try this. Go ahead and bring the hands up like this. So this is like a seated goddess pose or seated cactus pose. If anybody's done goddess, we'll do goddess with the arms out like in a cactus position. I'm going to lean from side to side. And if this is a little too much, you can always bring the hand down and alternate like this. So it's kind of your choice. Actually, it's always, this practice is always your choice. If you have something that you're familiar with that does the same thing, so we're laterally bending. You're always welcome to practice whatever you feel most comfortable with. So go ahead and rest the hands. And the last one we're going to do is a gentle turning or twisting. We're going to start out with the same fingers on the shoulders like this. And we're going to move the elbow. Think about moving your elbow back. Think about moving the elbow back. And notice how the belly starts to turn. So I'm getting a little bit of rotation along the diagonal here. So when I move this elbow back, there's a lengthening from the opposite hip up the shoulder, out through the elbow. So think about that lengthening starting at the opposite hip, out through the elbow. And that'll probably mean that you have to go slower. Because if you're actually going to connect and feel what's happening, it takes a moment. So in the beginning, we have to use our analytical mind to tell us. We have to think about it and go, oh, I'm going from my hip to my shoulder to my elbow. After you've done it for a while, you may be able to start to just feel the movement happening. And then it's becoming we're using a different part of the brain for that, more creative part. You could even imagine there's like a rubber band stretching from the hip up to the elbow on one side and then on the other side. You could even lift the elbow up slightly to help stretch that rubber band. Notice I'm not really turning the head. Now, if your neck is really good, no neck issues, you don't have any spinal problems, you are welcome to turn the head. So as I extend my elbow back, as I stretch that rubber band, I could turn the head as well. To look. The reason that in a lot of yoga poses we don't emphasize the neck is because that's often the easiest thing for people to turn. And we'll come back, we'll bring the arms down. And we actually want to be turning the more central parts of the spine, because our neck, for most people, tends to turn fairly easily. And a lot of times things like the area between the shoulder blades is much more difficult to get any movement out of. Now let's go ahead and bring the elbows down. And let's swing the arms like this. And let's add the legs to it too. Actually, like we're marching, but we're going to exaggerate the arms. So we have that same idea of that turning idea, but now a little back and forth like this. Now, if you're tired of sitting, you could do this standing. So if you want to stand up, you can. So you could stand up and do this. You could stand up. And actually the other choice is you could lift both sides at the same time, the arm and leg on both sides, or you could do the opposite. The opposite would be like this. And sometimes if you have trouble with this, getting the coordination going, try to think about just moving the arms. Once we get one side going like this, think about just changing the arm and leg rather than trying to move the arm and leg. In other words, try to make it different. And then we will go ahead and we will sit back down. Or you could do this standing. So that's bending the spine in 6 ways. We did the flexion and extension, we did the sideways, and we did some sort of turning. And the turning's really good for digestion and elimination. Really, really good. And that can be challenging. You know, elimination relies a lot on our movement. Just like the lymph system, sometimes people have trouble with their feet, with the circulation in their feet. The circulation of our blood and our lymph relies on the muscles contracting in order to push the blood and the lymph fluids back up to be recirculated. So the more we need movement, and we're tending to sit a lot, especially these days where we're stuck at home. And we'll sit up nice and tall, and let's do some range of motion. So the next thing we'll do is range of motion. We'll start with the hands, opening and closing like this. Let's add the feet to it. So I'm going to lift up. I'm going to lift up my toes, and I'm going to curl. So let's do it like curl, curl, and flex. And so rest the hands for a moment. So this is flexing our feet like this. We're flexing the toes up, and then we're going to curl them under. Being mindful not to overdo it. So if we do these, if you're not used to doing these exercises, it can cause cramping in your feet. So better to do small movements. Maybe the feet just do a little bit. And see if you can add the hands to it. So they're working together. They're going in the same direction, and they're coming back in the same direction. Now the hands are moving more because my toes just don't move as much. And sometimes they get a little bit, they don't do what I want them to do. And that's it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. And let's rest, and let's rock the feet. So we're going to rock the feet and come up on the toes. And you may get a little crunching in the feet or the ankles from this. So this rocking is very good for the muscles along the tibia and the calf muscle in the back. So balance is very dependent on the muscles in our feet and our lower legs. I mean, it matters in other places too, but if we don't have enough flexibility and strength in the lower part of the legs, balancing is hard. So anything you can do to sort of stimulate. So even, let's try this. Bring the feet a little closer now, and then lift up like this. And notice how we get a nice bending of the toes. I'll turn sideways so you can see. So you could also do this standing. If you wanted to stand up, you could come up on the balls of the feet, lifting the heels up. So notice how we get a nice bending of the toes, the flexing of the toes. So same thing if you're doing it standing. And it's definitely more challenging standing. So you may want to start out seated. And after you've practiced over a period of time, you can go to more doing it standing. And I'm not able to go quite as high on my toes this way. I can't get as much bending standing as I can seated. So that's sort of a trade. So that's maybe a little bit of a trade-off. Maybe you need more flexibility or more range of motion on the toes. And I can bend my toes more here. I get a lot more bend here than I can when I stand up. I guess if I was in the ballet, I could stand on my toes better. You know, they have a lot of people in ballet can have a lot of toe problems. And let's extend the arms and touch the shoulders. And then go ahead and start to lift the elbows up. So I'm opening and closing and extending. And then my hands are finally reaching somewhere around the head or maybe the back of the shoulders, depending on how you're feeling today. And then we'll start to come down. So my arms are still moving the whole time. My hands, so this bending of the elbow is just sort of happening. And then I'm just raising and lowering the shoulders. Let's try that again. So bending the elbows. So concentrate on just keeping the elbows bending and raising the elbows up. And then coming back down. And then we'll rest. We'll roll the shoulders. And back the other way. Now let's do the knees now. So if you want a big challenge, you could do this away from the back of the chair. Very hard though, because once we take one foot away, and also when we're back in the chair actually supports the under part of the thigh here. So it gives us a little bit more support underneath this whole, the whole pelvic area and the backs of the legs, making it easier to lift the leg up and still extend the spine. So if you find that if you are forward and you're collapsing, then you want to scoot back some. And then I'm going to swing the foot like this, making sure it goes forward and back. And I'm going to add the other arm. Add the other arm. I just add the elbow like this. Since we just have the knee going, let's have the elbow going. Imagine there's a string attached. So when they come up, the string so the length of the string doesn't change. And then when they come down, now let's switch sides. We'll lift the other side up. So I'm only engaging to lift the knee up. So the foot's hanging to begin. And that's going to actually activate all the muscles along here in order to lift the knee. So my knee is just lifted enough to lift the foot. And then I'm going to add the elbow on the other side. And really concentrate and see if you can get them to be in sync. It can be challenging. It's the way we have to concentrate to rein our body in. You know, our body, unless, I don't know how many people do this regularly, probably not very many. These movements are something we can teach our body, but it takes practice. And we'll sit up nice and tall, and we're going to do leg liftings. We're going to lift up and down. Let's start out with a few leg lifts. Keeping the leg nice and straight. Notice the toes are pointing straight up. Don't allow the foot to roll in or out. I'm going back and forth here. And for now, I've just got my hands resting on the thighs. And let's go ahead and lift up the left foot and point and flex. So we did this before, this pointing and flexing. Not exactly like this, but in a similar way, where we were curling the toes under like this. So now we're doing more the whole foot. We're really flexing, and it's the ankle, the front of the ankle here, as well as the toes and the top of the foot. And now switch sides. And if you're getting cramping here, remember, make the movement smaller. Let's add the hand to it too. Add the hand like this. So this is our flexion of our wrist back, just like we have the ankle back. I'll turn sideways like this. And this is our extension. Going back and forth, almost like we're waving. Goodbye. And let's sit up nice and tall. Take a couple of breaths. And now let's go back to our leg lifts. And this time, as you lift up, think about flexing the ankle. Flexing the ankle means shortening in the front, right in the front of the ankle. So this is called this dorsiflexion. So shortening, bringing the toe back, and then relaxing it down, and then the other side. We're going to go back and forth like that. I lift up, pull the toes back, dorsiflex the ankle, and then I go back down. This is a good exercise because we have a tendency as we age to lose the dorsiflexion in the ankle. It doesn't actually bend as much. If you see people who are younger, usually if you look at where the ankle bends, this bone in the front can get closer to the foot. So with this exercise right here, it's a nice way to build strength in the quadriceps, stretch the hamstrings, and also work on your dorsiflexion of your ankle. And if we're climbing stairs, things like that, it's very important to be able to dorsiflex the ankle. So these are one of the exercises that if you're seated, we all spend a lot of time at the computer. If you're seated at the computer for a while, just go ahead and you're typing away, take a break for 30 seconds. Do some leg lifts. Your legs will appreciate it, especially your hamstrings. The muscles and hamstrings and calf on the back. When you do this, we get a chance to actually stretch those muscles that are shortened chronically because we sit. And when the muscles on the back of the leg shorten, they tend to pull. They tend to pull on the pelvis, which pulls on the lower back, and that can create back pain or back discomfort. You might not get pain from it, but you might get a little bit of the muscle doesn't feel good. It feels overworked. So sometimes stretching the hamstring can actually help release the lower back. So to do these for even a few minutes, they're really good. You can also add the breath. So if you want to be really mindful about it and a little more focused, you can close the eyes. And then as you inhale, you come up, you pull the toes back, and think about pressing the heel away, moving the heel away from the hip so that the whole back of the leg lengthens out. And then come back down and then do the other side. So very mindfully, toes back, lengthen the back of the leg all the way through the heel so that the heel's moving away from the hip. A couple more times. And if you wanted, you could even do the arm the same way. Actually, let's do the arm like this. If you want to add the arm to it, extend the heel out and then extend the arm out to the side like this, as if you're extending through the middle finger. So I'm going to keep my hand like this, but I'm going to turn it so you can see how my fingers are spread apart. And I'm actually reaching down the arm, out of the shoulder, out through the middle finger. And then coming back down. Let's try that a couple of times. If you want to add the arm, you can. And I'm not straining the shoulder out, I'm extending. So there's a lengthening, a softening in the shoulder, extension of the heel out. And remember, it's normal in the beginning that this doesn't feel, it shouldn't hurt or be uncomfortable, but it might not feel like everything's working quite right because we don't normally do this. We don't normally combine these movements together. And if you wanted to even have a little more fun, you could extend the arm out and you could turn the head in the opposite direction, as long as your neck is good. So we've got the leg coming up, the opposite arm extending out, and then gently turning the head in the opposite direction. all the time maintaining the length in the spine and the breath. Remember, those are really the most important things. So even if I don't get quite as much effort, my leg doesn't come as high, my arm doesn't go straight out, and I don't turn my head as far, that's okay. It's important to keep that length in the spine, and the breathing. And let's come back down. Let's roll the shoulders. And if you find that doing those 3 movements at the same time is too challenging, start with one, leg lifting, and then you can add the arm. And work here for a while, like a week or 2 weeks or a day or 2 days, until you start to feel like the movement isn't so, it feels more normal. And then you can add the turning the head. So it's a step-by-step process. And let's see, so we've done we started with the fingers, we worked up the joints, we did the wrists, we kind of did the wrists. We did do the wrists. The elbows, the shoulders. We're going to do the neck and the waist. So let's go ahead, we'll do the neck. Let's let the chin go up and down. I think we usually do it this way, starting with the chin relaxing, the chin just gently falls. And then we lift it back up. And there's a slight tilt of the head back. Try not to do this. Because it really over compresses the back of the neck. It's not ideal. When the chin comes forward, I soften the throat. Let the weight of the head do the work here. So the real work, the only work really is lifting the chin back up. And even when I go back slightly, I let the weight of the head take it back, keeping the throat soft when I go back. And then I release the chin down. So I'm going to go back and forth like that. Keeping the jaw relaxed. You want the area around, right in front of the ears where the jaw meets, soften, and the eyes are relaxed. And then we're going to turn from side to, no, let's do this. Let's rest our hands on our shoulder like this. Make a little pillow. And then the other side. We're going to go back and forth like this. Think about how softly and how, like you're going to move the pillow for a baby. And you're going to move it so softly and so gently that your ear just lands on it very softly. So there's a lot of control here. Even though eventually we just let go of the head. We do it with control. You might even notice there's sort of a general softening of the body. Softening the shoulders and the head. We'll come back up. We're going to turn the head, sweep the gaze from right to left. It can be nice to use the hand here. Just following the hand. If this makes you dizzy at all, go slower. Try going slower. So you could even, going slower can often be challenging, especially if your energy level is up. If your energy level is up from doing the other exercises and you're warm, sometimes trying to slow down can be challenging. But we can help with that by relaxing the breath a little bit. We can even add the breath. We're going to inhale and then exhale to the other side. And then inhale to one side and exhale. So a lot of times we do it uniformly where we would breathe in one direction and then coming back, we would breathe out, and then we would start the in-breath again, going to the mirror image of that other side. But we're not doing that here. We're inhaling, and then we're exhaling on the other way. And then change arms here. And then go ahead and swing the arm up and around. So we're going to make some circles with the head. So notice how the chin is going around in a circle. So remember here, if you're going in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction, because we're going to switch to the other hand and we're going to go in the opposite direction. So please change arms and circle your hand in the opposite direction of what you're doing before, so your head is following. And we'll come back. Now let's roll the shoulders and then slide forward. And then we're going to circle. So we're going to stand up in a minute. So if you'd like to, you can stand up now and circle the hips. You might want to try circling in the chair for a moment, though, if you're going to stand up. See what it feels like. And then try standing up and circling the hips. I mean, it doesn't feel exactly the same, but the idea is similar. The idea is similar. And then whenever you're ready, you can change directions. You can also experiment with how wide the feet are apart. And so if you're standing, you could even sit back down and see what it feels like seated. And then we'll sit up nice and tall. We'll come into our mountain pose. So we're gonna do our standing portion of the class. So you're welcome to do most of these things you'll be able to do seated. But if you'd like to stand now, you can. And we're going to start in mountain pose. So I like to teach mountain pose in every class because it's really considered a foundational pose, because it's the way that we learn to extend the spine. And whether or not we're seated or we're extending the spine standing, a lot of the feeling and the mechanisms are similar. So we'll stand and go ahead and lift and spread the toes here. And lift and spread your toes. So remember, you could do this seated too. And then bring your attention down to the bottoms of the feet, the soles of the feet, and feel the heels of the feet. So we bring our attention all the way to the back edge of the heel, right back here to the heel. And then see if you can broaden that feeling so that you can feel, so the heel is sort of an oblong shape. See if you can feel a little bit more like an oblongness in the heel. And then try coming up to the balls of the feet. And at first, begin to feel where the toes touch the ball of the foot. So that's right here, right beneath the toes. And then see if you can let that feeling move back. The balls of the feet are, they're probably a couple inches wide from where the toes connect back towards the heel. So see if you can feel that broadening of the balls of the feet. And also feel the broadening of the heels at the same time. So now we're feeling the balls of the feet, we're feeling the heels of the feet supporting the feet. And then think about extending the spine up as you feel the bottoms of the feet. So extending the spine upwards. And we can do that by lifting the ribs, lifting the heart. You can even tap on the ribs. You can even take your fingers and lift your ribs. Just give them a little poke up. And the belly might want to stick out, so you may need to give a little bit of contraction to the abdomen, so that if I relax, my belly kind of sticks out like this. So I contract it slightly, And what happens is that helps actually support the lower back, and also my tailbone tucks slightly and my buttocks are contracting. So we're using the buttocks and the abdomen especially to help stabilize the pelvis in a neutral position and standing up nice and tall. So now add that. So feel the bottoms of the feet, bend the knees slightly so they go straight ahead. So make sure they only go straight. Don't let them go out to the side. This is actually a good place where if you do have a block or something to put between the legs, it can be handy. So having to give a little squeeze keeps my knees right on track. And then I'm going to straighten and bend slightly, just a little bit of bend. Press the feet, bend the knees slightly, straighten, pressing the thighs back. And when we press the thighs back, the quadriceps contract. They actually lift the kneecaps up. You can't see it underneath your clothes. But as you contract these guys in the front, you can even poke at them. Make sure they're alive when you're doing this. So they're firm here, and the buttocks are moving together slightly. So the buttocks are moving in, kneecaps are lifting up from the fronts of the thighs, lifting the ribs, moving the shoulders back and extending the arms down. So do that a few times. So starting at the bottoms of the feet, feeling the balls and heels, extending the legs, pressing the feet down, belly is supporting, ribs are lifting, shoulders are moving up and back and down, arms are shooting down, fingers go down like arrows towards the floor. And the back of the neck is long. So the chin may come down slightly here, slightly, but try not to drop it and try not to let it lift up. And keeping the eyes and the face soft and breathing. So please don't sacrifice the breath for mountain pose. We don't sacrifice the breath for any poses really in yoga. And we're going to start with, we'll do some balancing poses. Actually, let's do this first. We'll come to the back of our chair, or if you're doing it in a chair, you can sit towards the edge of the chair so that you can step the foot back like this. So remember before we were putting the ball of the foot down? Same idea here, where the ball of the foot and the toes are bending. As I step back and then I'm extending the leg, I'm pressing the heel away. So the leg extends and this area in the front opens. So please continue with that. And I'm going to show it in the chair. And as you breathe in and as you step the leg back, stand up tall and see if you can lift the chest. So same thing here. I'm stepping back and I'm lifting. And if you're in the chair, one of the things that you could do is use the chair for support with your hands and start to lift. So notice I'm not lifting out of the chair, but I'm helping to lift my spine up with my fingers and my arms. Lift me up. So I'd be going back and lift. And you could do the same thing standing with the chair, actually, without leaning so much on the chair, but the fingertips on the chair, and then lift up. You might notice there's a slight bend in that opposite leg as I come down. So I can step forward and back and lift. Forward, back, and lift. And try to look straight ahead if you can. I'm just turning my head so I can look towards the computer. So I'm stepping and lifting, and then we'll change legs. So you'll be feeling a contraction in the gluteal muscles. So go ahead, step back. So the first one, my toes are down, and my heel extends, and I'm opening the front. So this front part right here is opening. I'll turn a little bit sideways so you can see like this. And I'm having my fingers on the chair to help lift me up. And you don't have to use the chair, but it can be a nice way to feel extra grounding and be able to lift a little bit more and open this, this front of the hip area. And we'll come back. So we're going to do crane pose next into tree pose. So crane pose is that balancing pose. We'll start in mountain pose. So go ahead and make sure you've got your mountain ready. And then with crane pose, we lift the knee up. We'll do that a couple of times. Get the feeling of unweighting one foot and putting it on the other. Now, if you're in the chair, you can do the same thing. Just lift the knee up. And if you're in the chair, think about the feeling of the weight in the buttocks and the feet. And we want to be lifting the heart up. So just like when we were lifting before, when we were stepping back and lifting, think about lifting up, lifting the heart up. Oh, and let's change legs. We're lifting. Think about lifting the heart up. Lifting the heart up. And now we're going to lift up and we'll turn the leg out and rest the foot on the inside of the thigh. So try to find a comfortable tree pose. It's very important to be comfortable, and you can add the arms if you want. You can even, if you need to, you can touch the chair or not. You can even add the arms and they can come overhead if your balance is good. Remember, finding a point of concentration, a drishti point, looking in the distance at something that will not move, can sometimes keep the mind focused, which keeps the balance focused, and you can come down whenever you want. So remember, you can always come down during the pose and come back up. So let's do the other side. So we'll lift up one foot. Do that a couple of times just to warm up. Feel the weight shifting into the standing leg. This is our crane pose, and we'll turn a crane into a tree. Or say the crane flies into the tree. Not into the tree, flies and sets on the tree. You don't want any injured cranes. And then you can add your arms if you like. Find that drishti point. Remember to breathe. If you can, smile. Tree pose is such a beautiful, trees are beautiful. Trees are beautiful living things. And we're so fortunate now that we have leaves on them. And then we'll go ahead and we'll step down. We'll lower our branches down and just shake out. And let's swing. And we're going to do a 5-pointed star. So if you're seated, it's the same thing. We'll start with the feet, bring the feet apart. If you're doing 5-pointed star, arms are out like this. And we're going to do kind of a shining star like this. Back and forth. So you may want to do this. You're welcome to work with a chair. Welcome to work with a chair right in front. So if you want, you can have one hand for the chair. Or you could even have both hands near the chair if you need it. Or you can have both hands apart, and if you need it, you can bring the hands together. And if you're seated, so if you're standing, please continue to stand if you want. Or you can try it seated if you want. So same thing here. And this time I'm really kind of balancing on one buttock, one sitting bone. So my butt is off the chair here. Just make sure you don't fall out of the chair. So you could also, if you need arms on the chair, you could keep one hand on the arm of the chair. You could even, if you have a second chair, so if you didn't have arms on a chair, you could put a chair on each side and work like this. And you could go from one chair to the other with the hand. But we're balancing. And then see if for a moment, you can kind of pause and then go back the other way. So whether you're seated or standing, just pause there for a moment. You can even work with the big toe on that raised foot on the floor and then go back the other way. So there's hardly any weight. I mean, there's really no weight on this foot, but just the action of the big toe touching helps with balance. And then we're going to come back down. And we're going to start to warm down now. So we'll take a couple of breaths. And a few sighs. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. And one more. Inhale and exhale. This time give yourself a little hug. And then bring the arms down, roll the shoulders. And a couple of breaths, bringing the hands, inhaling up, exhaling down and around. Feel free to close the eyes here and start to bring the attention inwards. Letting the breath come back to normal. Lifting the heart, letting the breath come back to normal. So it's very calm breathing here, and then we'll go back the other way. And one last time. I'm going to come into our Shavasana, our final relaxation pose. So please set yourself up so that you are most comfortable. So I'm going to roll up a blanket. And again, it can be any blanket. So it could be this blanket. This is just a regular, this is like a throw blanket that in the wintertime when it's cold, it's very handy. I'm going to put it behind me in my lumbar area just to provide a little support. I'm going to settle back against the back of the chair and rest the hands. If you have glasses on, you may want to take them off. Helps the face to relax a little more. Find a spot for your hands. Lap on the legs, on the arms of the chair if you have arms. Just finding a place that's most comfortable. And each time we exhale, we soften just a little bit more. Allowing the face and the eyes to relax. Allowing the shoulders to soften. Namaste.
All right, everybody. This is Batya Blumenthal, branch supervisor of the Putterham Library. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. I wanted to thank Keith for walking us through our practice today. I also wanted to thank the Friends of the Brookline Library for sponsoring this program and other programs like it. I also wanted to thank our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, for streaming this program through their Facebook feed, their YouTube channel, and through local cable, Comcast and RCN Channel 3. And with that, I will give it back to Keith if there are any questions.
Anybody?